What if I told you that the most dangerous assaults on your peace never crash in through windows or thunder across your news feed with screaming headlines, but instead shuffle in softly on slippered feet, ordinary, polite, almost invisible, and sit beside you like long-lost friends? Picture the familiar hum of dawn, kettle sputtering, phone buzzing, inbox swelling. Nothing in that scene looks hostile, yet by sunset many of us feel as ragged as if we had marched all day beneath enemy fire. We speak of busy seasons, of information overload, of burnout, as though these were freak weather systems rather than predictable side effects of 10 avoidable habits. I learned the full weight of those habits only after decades of running from one urgent project to the next, chasing reputation, applause, security, yet somehow shedding calm like a traveler losing coins from a torn pocket. I would not wish that poverty of spirit on any listener, and so I invite you to walk with me through these 10 traps, beginning with 4 that stalk the very first hours of your morning. You might wonder why you should care. Why confront these subtle forces now? Because the cost of ignoring them compounds. A day of scattered focus becomes a week of irritable conversations. A week becomes a month of sleepless nights. A month becomes a year in which your finest intentions crumble under constant stimulus. Peace is the currency that funds good judgment, creative work, generous love. Lose it, and everything downstream grows thin. Yet restore it at the source, and you discover, as Marcus Aurelius did while encamped on the Danube frontier, that serenity can coexist with screaming battle horns, if the mind is trained. The grand payoff of our journey together is this. By the time we finish Part 3, you will hold a lived-in set of Stoic practices that foil the 10 traps quickly, reliably, without need for retreats or expensive gadgets. Think of them as small hinges that swing heavy doors, giving you command over attention, emotion, and time, regardless of what the wider world demands. Why trust my map? Because the roads are scarred with my own missteps. In younger years, I served as an advisor to ambitious executives, reminders buzzing on 2 phones, pride swelling with every new client. Outwardly successful, inwardly shredded, I realized one winter that I had not spent 10 unbroken minutes in silence for nearly a year. Sleepless and sick, I stumbled onto Epictetus, then Seneca, then the meditations of an emperor who would have traded his purple robes for the simple luxury of a quiet mind. Their counsel reshaped my days piece by piece, never through grand gestures, always through deliberate subtraction. 10 subtractions, in fact, became my ladder out of the pit. The same 10 form the spine of this trilogy. Here is the road you and I will tread. Part 1 exposes the opening quartet of traps: noise, false urgency, ego hunger, and boundary leakage, each paired with a Stoic countermove ready for practice tonight. Part 2 will descend into the psychological thicket where comparison, excess, and emotional volatility lurk. Part 3 will confront resentment, aimlessness, and what I call the velvet noose of comfort, before knitting every lesson into one sunrise to nightfall routine you can tailor to any life circumstance. No bulleted commandments, no PowerPoint formulas, only narrative thick with example, because stories teach the bones as well as the brain. Let us lift the lantern over the first snare. The trap of unchosen noise. Silence used to be the native climate of thought. In farming villages at dusk, you could hear a horse chewing 3 fields away. Today, we pipe music into grocery aisles, podcasts into showers, autoplay video into every pause. None of that noise is evil. Most is even useful. The trap is not sound itself, but sound you did not consciously invite. Uncurated voices colonizing each fissure of the day until reflection has nowhere to nest. Seneca warned that the mind must retire into itself. It cannot be always on display. When I first tried a single silent commute after years of audio glut, my thoughts flailed like birds accustomed to cage bars. Yet within a week the panic subsided, replaced by observations and questions that had long been drowned. One morning, an idea for a project surfaced whole, needing only ink. That idea later paid my mortgage for a year, proof that gold often gleams in quiet streams, never in roaring fountains. To spring this trap, designate one mundane ritual: washing dishes, lacing shoes, strolling to the mailbox, as a sanctuary of quiet. Defend it like sacred ground. If your fingers twitch for earbuds, notice the craving and let it pass. Each victory trains the brain to distinguish between chosen input and invasive clamor. Over months, the baseline hiss of anxiety softens. You hear the gears of your own reason turning again. Marcus wrote, "Men seek out retreats in the country, by the sea, in the mountains. Yet nowhere can a man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." Begin building that inner cabin by clearing 5 silent minutes amid the breakfast dishes. The trap of false urgency. Roman merchants once rang handbells to lure passers-by. Last batch of figs before winter. Knowing urgency tilts judgment. Today, digital bells ding thousands of times before lunch. Each claims to be critical. Few truly are. The Stoics answered urgency with deliberation. Epictetus advised students to picture themselves at a banquet. When a platter comes their way, take only what conscience allows. If it passes before they decide, let it pass. I failed that test for years, priding myself on lightning replies. Eventually, I measured. Half those rapid answers required follow-up to fix hasty errors. The other half concerned matters that resolved themselves without my interference. Urgency had tricked me into sprinting on a treadmill. The remedy is a breathing wedge. 4 slow counts in, 2 count hold, 6 counts out, before responding to any ping. While the breath unfolds, ask, does a life well lived truly require immediate action on this? Stock trade? Perhaps. Friends crisis? Maybe. Flash sale on garden furniture? Likely not. Each pause reasserts sovereignty. Over time, acquaintances learn that you answer with thoughtful timing, not Pavlovian speed. Curiously, respect often rises. Consistency and insight outshine immediacy. And your piece, once sliced into frantic ribbons, regains its seamless fabric. The trap of ego hunger. Praise feels like sunlight on the face, but a plant that leans too far toward any window grows crooked. I learned this in my consulting days when client applause spiked my mood higher than caffeine. The crash came whenever no compliment arrived. Self-worth sagged, begging for the next fix. Seneca likened such hunger to a leaky bucket. No matter how much is poured in, it never stays. Stoic medicine: perform daily labor invisible to crowds. I chose handwritten notes of encouragement to colleagues, sealed and stored in a drawer. Weeks passed before one recipient discovered hers and thanked me with astonishment. That moment was sweet, yet the deeper reward had already occurred in private. The quiet swell of satisfaction each night knowing I had acted in line with my values, unseen. Practice your own secret craft. Compose a melody, repair a tool, memorize a poem, then tell no one. The ego will protest. Let it. Over months, the inner scorekeeper will grow louder than any audience, and peace will anchor to self-command rather than public weather. The trap of leaky boundaries. Kindness without limits curdles into resentment. I learned this while juggling client calls during what should have been family dinners, telling myself I was providing, serving, maximizing. In truth, I was bleeding presence from every realm. Stoicism frames generosity as a virtue only when exercised within right measure. A jug cannot water a field once emptied. To mend leaks, craft a courteous refusal in advance. Mine now reads, "Thank you for thinking of me. My current commitments won't let me give this the attention it deserves." Memorize your version. The first deployment will shake your nerves. The 10th will strengthen your spine. Boundary does not mean barricade. Inside protected time you can choose to help with full attention, free of simmering resentment. Set one boundary this week. Perhaps no work email after 8 p.m., or no device at the dinner table. Guard it politely, firmly. Each upheld line is a sandbag against the flood of demands that would erode your calm. I left you last time with 4 snares exposed and counter moves at the ready. Some of you, I imagine, have already tasted the first flicker of difference. Perhaps in the hush of a phone-free commute. Perhaps in the steadiness that rose after you breathed before replying to that so-called urgent message. Keep those early sparks. We will need them as lanterns now, for the traps ahead do not scrape the surface of habit. No, they churn in deeper water, where self-image, appetite, and raw emotion intertwine. They seldom announce themselves with notifications or calendar invites. Instead, they speak in the mutter under your breath, the tightness in your gut, the sudden blush of envy when a colleague's success scrolls across your feed. The next 3 forces, comparison, excess, and emotional volatility, undo more peace in a year than war and famine undo in a lifetime of most modern citizens. They work from the inside out, corroding judgment, exaggerating hunger, flooding reason with feeling until your inner citadel echoes with quarreling voices. Yet, as Stoic writers insisted, any trouble born inside the mind can be unmade inside the mind as well. No tyrant rules there unless we first open the gate. Let us begin with the trap of comparison, perhaps the oldest thief of contentment, yet recently granted a megaphone by social apps that turn private milestones into public scoreboards. In the marketplaces of Rome, a baker might glimpse the wealth of a neighbor and feel a momentary pang, but he could retreat to his shop and lose himself in dough and yeast. Now the wealth, beauty, and curated joy of millions glaze your retinas before your first sip of coffee. The mind, wired to scan for rank within a tribe of about 100, cannot fathom its place among billions. Result, a constant simmer of not enoughness, even as material comfort climbs to historic highs. I first tasted the poison of comparison during what should have been a triumphant season. A book I had labored over for 3 winters reached bestseller lists. Invitations flowed in. Then, one morning, I read a profile of another author whose debut outsold mine 5-fold. Instead of quiet gratitude for my own good fortune, I felt my stomach knot. Marcus Aurelius would have smiled sadly. He wrote that ambition shackles joy to the whim of circumstance. The cure he practiced was the view from above, lifting the mind high enough to see human affairs shrink to specks. He envisioned caravans crossing deserts, harvests ripening and withering, empires rising and crumbling, all compressed into the same cosmic blink. When I tried this exercise, eyes closed, breath slow, I pictured both my book and that rival volume as 2 strokes of ink in the vast library of time. the envy loosened its grip. Here is the daily practice I took up thereafter, which I commend to you. Each evening, list 3 deeds from the day judged solely by internal measures: clarity of intention, effort aligned with virtue, humility in learning. No one else's metrics enter the ledger. Did you keep a promise? Did you push skill a notch beyond yesterday's edge? Did you navigate a confrontation without malice? These are comparisons the soul may rightly entertain, between who you were and who you strive to become. Over weeks, the mind weans itself from social rankings. It hungers instead for self-concordance. External achievements become pleasant bonuses, not requisites for self-respect. And whenever envy flares anew, as it will, pause and repeat Marcus's aerial survey. 2 actors on a spinning pebble, trading the spotlight for moments before darkness swallows stage and audience alike. Why waste heartbeats begrudging another's applause? Next, we wade into the trap of excess. Stoics never despised comfort. They owned villas, enjoyed wine, laughed at banquets. Their warning concerned dependence. To need what is pleasant is to render yourself a servant to supply and whim. Seneca asked, "Do you suppose that you alone will swim when the ship sinks because you travel in first class?" His letters recount noblemen who trained by fasting, wearing plain cloaks, sleeping on straw, not to broadcast piety, but to learn that joy survives beyond luxury. Modern excess seldom arrives by golden goblet. It seeps in through subscriptions, 2-day shipping, streaming catalogs, snack aisles a mile long. None is fatal alone, yet together they swell appetites until ordinary life feels bland. Then you require louder music, richer food, pricier gadgets to feel the old delight, and peace retreats further into the distance. My own turning point came after a stretch of high income. I upgraded small pleasures one by one: single origin coffee, boutique gym, business class seats, telling myself I had earned them. Gradually, the base level of expectation rose, like a thermostat nudged in sleep. When a delayed flight forced me into economy, irritation flared disproportionate to the actual discomfort. I had become less resilient for all my treats. So I adopted what Epictetus called training in preference reversal. Each month, I pick one category: food, transport, entertainment, and revert to a simpler version: beans and rice for dinner, buses instead of car, public library in place of new purchases. The first days pinch pride, but soon I notice a paradoxical widening of gratitude. Flavors sharpen, time stretches, small conveniences regain their sparkle. Excess loses its hypnotic power, and peace returns buoyant, requiring little to thrive. You need not embrace hair shirt austerity. Begin with one voluntary concession per week. Brew basic grocery store coffee if you normally favor artisanal roasts. Jog outdoors instead of using the sleek treadmill. While you partake, repeat this line of Epictetus: "Is this what I feared?" In most cases, the answer is a sheepish no. Each practice session sands a layer from the craving that once dictated terms. Over months, you will find yourself calm when flights delay, when menus disappoint, when supply chains falter, because contentment now roots in adaptability rather than abundance. The third chamber we must cross tonight houses the trap of emotional volatility: anger, anxiety, elation, despair. Passions that, left untrained, can seize the reins from reason in an eye blink. Stoicism is sometimes caricatured as suppression, yet true Stoic practice is regulation and understanding, not denial. Imagine emotions as horses yoked to a chariot. Ignore them and they bolt. Whip them and they rear. Guide them with skill and they power the journey. The ancients used premeditatio malorum, vividly rehearsing possible misfortunes, to desensitize fear, and journaling to analyze anger's thoughts until it withered under scrutiny. Years ago, I facilitated a high-stakes negotiation. Midway, an executive across the table lobbed a sly insult questioning my competence. I felt heat surge, words loading like arrows. But I had been rehearsing Seneca's countdown, breathing, labeling, impression of insult, not insult itself, spark of anger, not command to attack. By the third breath, the flare subsided enough to speak with measured firmness rather than wounded pride. The deal survived. My reputation, paradoxically, rose. People admire the one who stays cool. Later, in a restroom mirror, I thanked the old Roman silently. To cultivate such poise, choose one recurring emotional trigger. Traffic delays, political debates, criticism from a certain relative. Before your next exposure, sit quietly and imagine the scene in detail. The honking horns, the accusation, the headline. Feel the pulse quicken, the jaw clench. Then, in imagination, insert a pause. See yourself breathe, detach, respond with a question or silence. Repeat until the mental film no longer spikes adrenaline. When the real scene unfolds, you will find the practiced groove easier to follow than the old reactive rut. Over time, emotional spikes flatten into manageable waves, and peace extends its half-life from minutes to hours to days. Now, some exciting news. Our channel now offers a members club. By joining it, you'll unlock exclusive benefits, deeper content dives, and personal insights. Join us on this journey, and let's build a meaningful life together. And I also humbly ask you to leave a comment, as it helps my channel immensely. If you do not know what to comment, just write better every day, so I know you reached this far. And don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. Also, I've linked some books on Stoicism that helped me become the man I am today, and will also help you achieve a Stoic mindset. One caution: mastery is asymptotic. Outbursts will still happen. When they do, conduct a post-event autopsy without self-flogging. What thought preceded the flare? Was it an assumption of disrespect? A forecast of loss? Each note strengthens pattern recognition, shrinking next time's fuse. Seneca counseled treating every slip as a lesson ticket already paid for, cost sunk, value extracted only if we study it. We have now charted the middle stretch of our expedition, how comparison steals joy, how excess dulls gratitude, how untrained emotion storms the helm. The night is deep, the mind perhaps full. So I leave you with 3 pocket tasks, one for each trap, to test before we meet again. For comparison, end your day with the 3-deed ledger judged only by inner criteria. Write it, do not merely think it. Ink grants thoughts the dignity of form. For excess, designate tomorrow's lunch or commute or evening entertainment as a downgrade experiment. Approach it like a traveler sampling local fare, curious rather than grim. For emotions, spend 5 quiet minutes visualizing your prime trigger in crisp detail. Rehearse the Stoic pause, breathe, reframe. Log sensations and alternative responses. Guard these tasks as apprenticeships. Mastery lies not in grand vows, but in small strokes etched daily. When we reconvene for part 3, 3 final traps await: resentment, aimlessness, and the velvet noose of comfort. They reside at the core of character and will demand every skill you have sharpened so far. Arrive with your ledger, your downgrade story, and the notes from your emotional rehearsal. Together, we will forge them into the keystone of lasting peace, one that no market crash, no scroll of envy, no surge of anger can crack. Until then, walk steady, breathe slow, and remember Marcus's verdict. The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. Let us keep that quality bright. The road behind us is already strewn with sprung traps, noise quieted, urgency slowed, ego settled, boundaries mended, comparison shrunk, appetites trimmed, tempests of feeling brought to heel. Yet anyone who has hauled stones for a fortress knows the final courses demand the deepest stamina. So it is with the last 3 snares. They creep not through habit or appetite alone, but through the very stories we tell about our lives. Left unchecked, they acid etch bitterness on the heart, drain the compass needle of direction, and wrap the soul in cushions so soft it forgets how to walk. Tonight we meet them one by one. Resentment, aimlessness, and the velvet noose of comfort. And we fashion, from Stoic ore, the keystone that locks our earlier lessons into a single arch of peace. 1. The trap of resentment. Resentment is anger's lingering echo, a low hum you cease to notice until it spoils every chord of music that follows. A stranger cuts you off in traffic. The flash of irritation is natural, gone in seconds. But if insult sticks, if you chew it through meetings, re-script the scene in bed, that is resentment. A parasite drawing nourishment from your nightly rations of calm. Marcus Aurelius likened such brooding to choosing to let someone keep hurting you long after the first blow. Resentment promises justice. If I keep the wound fresh, I won't be fooled again. Yet, in practice, it shackles you to the very offender, marching your mind round the same circular track while they perhaps sleep soundly unaware. I nursed such fetters for years regarding a business partner who siphoned credit for our joint work. On stage, he thanked me. In boardrooms, he leveraged my ideas as solo brainwaves. I replayed conversations, drafted scathing emails unsent, felt my chest tighten whenever his name appeared. The turning came during a dawn reading of Epictetus. Remember, it is not he who reviles you who harms you, but your opinion that these things are grievous. I closed the book, stunned. My torment was self-manufactured. Yes, he had acted without honor. That fact required boundaries. But every extra hour of fury was a voluntary tax I kept paying. Stoic remedy, a 3-part release ritual. First, frame the offense accurately. Strip adjectives, write the bare act. He presented slide 12 as though it were his. Second, state what lies within your power. Future collaboration terms, explicit credit agreements, or severing ties. Third, commit to non-rumination by installing a replacement thought whenever the mind replays the grievance. Mine became a question. What is my duty now? Duty might be drafting clearer contracts, honing new work, or simply breathing. Each deployment weakened the neural rut. Within weeks, resentment's sting dulled to historical data. Useful in guiding partnerships, but no longer poisoning breakfast. Your practice. Choose one ongoing resentment, perhaps an old betrayal, a parental slight, a colleague's promotion, and run the 3-step ritual tonight on paper. Post it where you prepare coffee. For the next month, if memory drags you back to the wound, read the page aloud, then pivot into purposeful action. Stoic peace is not amnesia. It is remembering without reopening. 2. The trap of aimlessness. Imagine waking each dawn aboard a ship with no charted port. Sails billow, crew hustles, but direction shifts with every whim of wind. Many lives look thus, calendars crammed, goals copied from culture, but no central telos, no self-chosen North Star. Seneca warned, when a man does not know what harbor he is making for, no wind is the right wind. Aimlessness breeds anxiety disguised as busyness. You hurry all day, yet fall into bed doubtful you advanced anything real. Over time, such drift erodes peace more cruelly than open hardship, for at least hardship can clarify purpose. Aimlessness is fog, comfortable, indefinite, suffocating. Stoic philosophy answers with the discipline of purpose. Not grandiose mission statements the size of billboards, but a concise articulation of what you deem worth living for, framed in virtues, not outcomes. Marcus summarized his own: to live according to nature as a rational, social being practicing justice, self-restraint, courage, and understanding. From that root he derived daily branches. Listen more than speak. Prefer truth over flattery. Treat every obstacle as material for the craft of character. Crafting your telos need not involve monasteries or muses, just a quiet hour, a blank page, and brutal honesty. Ask, which qualities do I admire when I meet them in others? Which diminish me when I neglect them in myself? List the top 4. Stoic tradition chooses wisdom, justice, courage, temperance, but yours may phrase them as curiosity, integrity, steadfastness, compassion. Next, condense them into a single sentence starting, I aim to. Mine reads, I aim to refine clarity and fairness in every domain I touch, leaving conversations clearer and people slightly lighter. Tape this to your laptop. Each morning scan upcoming tasks, mark the one most aligned with that aim and tackle it first. At day's end, journal one micro-act that embodied the sentence. Over months, design and serendipity begin to rhyme. Anxiety drops, replaced by a hum of forward pull. Even on chaotic days, the knowledge of aim acts like ballast, steadying the hull. Beware perfectionism. Purpose is compass, not cage. If circumstances force detours, illness, job loss, the virtues remain portable. Marcus governed an empire in plague, exile, war. His aim flexed, never snapped. So define yours in traits transferable across roles. Then peace need not await favorable weather. 3. The velvet noose of comfort. If resentment chains you to the past and aimlessness steals the future, comfort suffocates the present. I call it a velvet noose because it feels gentle, even luxurious, while slowly restricting the range of your life. Modernity offers endless cushions, heated seats, same-day shipping, entertainment on demand. None is villainous alone, yet cumulative ease atrophies resilience. The couch seduces after work. Soon, hikes feel arduous. Meal kits spare you chopping. Soon, the grocery aisle seems an ordeal. Bit by bit, comfort narrows the corridor in which peace can survive. Any unexpected hardship, a cold shower when the boiler fails, a long queue in sweltering heat, now triggers outsized distress. Stoics inoculated themselves through voluntary hardship. We touched on this in Part 2 with modest downgrades, but now we forge a systematic regimen. Choose 1 week each quarter as your training week. Rules: cold morning rinse, simple food, grains, legumes, seasonal produce, transit by foot or public means whenever feasible, entertainment limited to reading or conversation, bed by candlelight. Inform friends so invitations align. Keep notes. Observe initial discomfort, watch it plateau, witness the mind recalibrate. Seneca did similar during Rome's opulent feasts, wearing rough cloak among silks to whisper, "Is this what I feared?" After training week, reintroduce comforts consciously. The first latte, the warm shower, each tastes vividly new. confirming Epictetus's claim that deprivation can sharpen appreciation. More important, you'll discover that peace accompanies you across conditions. Next time power cuts or flights cancel, you'll shrug with practiced ease. I have rehearsed this scene. Importantly, voluntary hardship must pair with generosity, else it sours into ascetic pride. Money saved on frugal meals, donate to a food bank. Time freed from streaming, call the elderly relative. Thus, comfort's noose loosens not by self-punishment, but by redirecting excess toward contribution, which ancient philosophy crowns as the highest luxury. Braiding the 10 strands into one rope. We have now examined 10 thieves of peace, each answered by a Stoic maneuver. 1. Noise, chosen silence. 2. False urgency, deliberate pause. 3. Ego hunger, secret craftsmanship. 4. Leaky boundaries, pre-forged refusal. 5. Comparison, nightly inner ledger. 6. Excess, cyclical simplicity. 7. Emotional volatility, rehearsed restraint. 8. Resentment, 3-part release. 9. Aimlessness, virtue, anchored telos. 10. Comfort, quarterly training week. Separately, each practice yields modest traction. Interlaced, they form a resilient cord to haul you from any swamp of turmoil. Here is how to weave them into a dawn to dusk routine. Morning, silence and aim. Wake without phone for the first 15 minutes. Sit with warm drink in quiet. Read your telos sentence aloud. Scan the day's agenda. Star one task that best embodies that aim. Commute. Chosen noise fast. If commuting, spend first segment device free, letting thoughts rise. Should urgency pings appear, employ the 4-6 breath before deciding if action truly matters. Work block. Boundaries and craft. Protect a 2-hour window for deep work on the starred task. Notifications off. Finish with 5 secret minutes polishing a skill or writing a note no one will see today. Midday. Simplicity and restraint. Lunch. Simplest satisfying meal. Observe any envy or comparison triggered by colleagues. Log 3 internal metrics you upheld this morning. Afternoon. Emotion practice. Anticipate a likely irritation. Meeting with critic, tech glitch. When it hits, enact the rehearsed pause. Note success or slippage. Evening. Release and reflection. Before dinner, conduct resentment ritual on any new grievance. Dinner device free if possible. Afterward, brief journaling. Ledger of deeds, lessons, gratitude for one hardship faced. Quarterly, training week, schedule next voluntary hardship stretch. Jot goals, charities to support. Maintain this rope for 90 days. At journey's end, compare baseline stress, sleep quality, self-respect to your old norm. I wager you will find gains more durable than any spa weekend, because the source of calm now resides in stable habits, not rented scenery. Farewell, charge. We stand at the battlements looking back on 3 parts, 15,000 words, and change. The view reveals no single revelation, but a mosaic of small permissions reclaimed. The permission to silence a feed, to breathe before answering, to prize effort over applause, to decline politely, to savor plain bread, to direct feelings rather than drown in them, to let go the grudges that rust inside, to stride toward a self-defined horizon, to step outside plush walls and feel wind on skin. None requires a guru or a golden sunrise, only the steady courage to choose differently moment by moment. Will the traps vanish forever? No. Habits coil like ivy. Snip them and they seek new cracks. But with your new tools, the ledger, the pause, the ritual releases, you will spot fresh shoots early. Peace, once a fragile bloom, matures into a deep-rooted tree whose shade follows you across seasons. Remember Marcus's counsel as final benediction. Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. Likewise, waste no more time yearning for peace as though it were a luxury item shipped from afar. Be peaceful in action. Guard silence, honor pauses, craft in secret, draw boundaries, live simply, train difficulty, forgive quickly, steer by stars of virtue. Do this not once in dramatic flourish, but daily, quietly, until the habits wear grooves deeper than the traps. I am an old man now. My workbench is a scattering of notebooks, each etched with these exercises. Some days I stumble still, fall into comparison, reach for needless noise. But recovery is swift, the map memorized. That resilience is what I wish for you. Not flawless calm, but the kind of practiced steadiness that, when shaken, settles like pond water returning to clear. Take these lessons, adapt them to your rhythm, and, should fate permit, pass them along. Peace enlarges when shared, not hoarded. Now close this screen, light or dim, and begin the first small act. Perhaps 2 silent breaths before the next click. The road out of turmoil starts not at the horizon, but under the soles of whichever shoes you're wearing now. Walk on, friend, and keep the lantern handy. The traps will loom again, but now you know where they lie. Now, if any part of this message has been helpful to you, leave us your like and comment, helping the algorithm recommend it to someone who needs it at this time. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss new videos. And if you look through the videos we've already uploaded, you're sure to find something to take with you. Have a good day.